So, when you're thinking of your desire, like what it is that you really want, like perhaps you're visualizing yourself living in your dream house. Do you ever find that your rational mind is constantly interrupting during this process? Like maybe you're thinking of all the logistics of how you're going to get the house or how you're going to come up with the money for the house. I know this happens a lot for me. Or perhaps you, even in your imagination, you can't really buy into fully getting what it is that you really desire, and so you kind of settle for second best. And like for instance, I have this really strong desire to at least visit, maybe have a house someday in Sedona. But I also know that Sedona is really expensive. And so, even in my imagination for a long time, I couldn't quite go there. I couldn't even imagine myself. Um, even imagine myself living there or, having a rental there. And finally today, I finally sort of made that breakthrough. But a lot of times, this rationalization and this settling for second best, even in our imagination, a lot of it comes from, things that we were told by others that we can't get a certain desire. Either it's not practical, or like I said, we have all these kind of outside beliefs, like even the belief that Sedona is too expensive for most people is like an external belief. Or a lot of it comes down to things that we were told in childhood. And so my mom, I don't mean to talk bad about her. I love her very much and we have a really good relationship, but she's very much, pragmatic, sort of, on the cynical side. And when I was a kid, I don't know if you had this when you were a kid, but in PE, we had this thing called the President's Challenge. And so there would be all these different competitions, and they would give us kind of there would be sort of like criteria, and you would get like either first, second, or third level according to like the national criteria for each of these competitions. And so some of them were endurance, some of them were strength competitions. And so I was not an athletic growing up at all. Chosen last for the team, pretty much every cliche that you can think of. But I was tired of always just being disappointed and humiliated in the President Challenge. Always, every time we would do some sort of running competition, not only would I come in last, but I would come in like way behind everybody else. And so, like, I really wanted to perform well. And so, like all summer, like I practiced running. I would go to the track. I would even time myself. And then I remember telling my mom that I got a certain time. And I don't remember what the exact time was, but it wasn't like completely out there. It wasn't like a 5 minute mile or anything like that. But I remember when I told her my time, she told me that she thought I was wearing rose colored glasses. And like she didn't believe that I could actually get that time based on my athletic ability. And so that really stuck with me. And and ever since then, just all of these kind of beliefs around, big successes meant for everybody else, but not for me. And sometimes I even try to convince myself that I don't really want all that much, that I just want like this really simple life. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. But it's coming from a place, right, of disempowerment, from a place of not really thinking I can get whatever it is that I truly want. And also kind of, and that's where the rational, logical side of it always comes in as well. And I find even during deep meditations, I find it really difficult sometimes to completely let go because my rational brain is always like talking to me, either questioning the validity or just trying to come up with different strategies for how I'm going to get whatever that thing is. And then on the other side of the coin, when sometimes I get into this mode where I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for these big desires. But sometimes it's coming from an egoic perspective. And so it's coming from this place of wanting to prove everybody wrong, like of wanting to prove all those people from childhood wrong, that I really can be something great, whatever that means anyway. And so, and then almost inevitably, I, get into this place where I get really obsessive about my goal. And then I just fall into this really like almost like a deep depression whenever I don't meet my goal, or at least, it doesn't turn out in the way that I was expecting. And so I think the lesson here is to realize it's not really about the goal or about the desire. It's not about the dream house or the dream relationship. It's not, those things are great, don't get me wrong, but it's more about the process itself. So it's the process of actually coming into alignment with these deepest desires. And this whole journey of letting go of all of these limitations and stepping into this place where we're connected to our divinity and we're connected to this place of infinite love and infinite potential and infinite freedom, and realizing that, yeah, in our imaginations, we can be completely free. We're not restricted. And then what I've noticed when I'm in this place is that, yeah, even if the things in my physical, 3D reality don't pan out exactly like I had visualized them in my head, life is just a whole lot more magical. And I'm just like in this constant flow state. And life is just a lot more fun. And it's always surprising me, like in the best ways. And yeah, and just ways that I never would have thought possible, that my rational brain never would have dreamed of in a million years. And like, I'll give you an example. I just had at one point, I had this vision in my head, and this is when I was feeling very lost. I was just feeling at a very low point in my life. But I really like dancing and I really like nature. And so I just had this vision in my head of the two coming together, like being at some really cool dance party out in the woods. And I didn't fixate on it. I didn't spend a lot of time scripting it. I didn't play it over and over in my head. It was just something like a passing thing, like, oh, that would be kind of cool. And then sure enough, I actually ended up living out in this community in the middle of nowhere, literally, like no mailing address. You had to drive down a long dirt road to get there, an hour and a half from the nearest town. And there was actually, the people there decided it would be fun to throw a dance party. And the dance party was actually in an empty swimming pool, but it was like out just in the middle of the jungle. So I never would have imagined that in a million years. So yeah, when you just step into this place of infinite possibility, you never know what life is going to bring you. And so that's my message. So to recap, to not limit yourself in your imagination and not, allow your rational mind to tell you what you can and can't have, or obsess about all the steps that it's going to take to get there. But by the same token, not to get too fixated on the desire either. But to remember that it's really just about the whole process and finding joy in the process. And as you do so, you'll start to find more joy in your day-to-day life as well. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.